Welcome, everyone, to the Titans Time Podcast, your Tennessee Titans podcast for the Pig Skid Podcast Network. We got a great show planned for you tonight. We have the 2021 Titans Fan of the Year, Stephani, on with us. And we're starting a new series because obviously over the last couple of weeks, Titans being eliminated from the playoffs and everyone being down. Of course, you have Twitter going crazy, whether you're split on the side Tannehill has to go or Tannehill is staying. It just craziness. So I figured let's start up a segment looking back on this season at everyone's top 10 moments, top 10 plays, however you want to view it, and just look back on the positives of this season. Before we hop into that, tell you how you can support the show. Simple. First, you can go check out our merch. We have hoodies, t-shirts, phone cases, stickers, all different kinds of stuff. All you have to do is go to titans-time.myshopify.com/collections/all. Look, guys, I know that's a long link that you have to follow. I'll go back and I will put it in the description. So all you have to do is click that link. It'll carry you right to it. If you're listening or if you're watching on YouTube right now and you're not subscribed yet, go click that subscribe button. Turn it gray, turn on the post notifications so you never miss when we upload a new video, when we go live like we are right now. Leave a like on the video, share the video, and go leave some comments. Let us know what your top 10 moments are from this season. If you're listening to the audio version, that'll be out either later tonight or tomorrow, Sunday, then make sure you're following, whether it be on Stitcher, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Leave us that 5-star rating. Leave us some comments, questions. We love that interaction. And, of course, check out our social medias. Our Twitter is Titans_time, Instagram, Titans Time Podcast, and Facebook, Titans Time. Now, we can start getting into the show. As I said, we have the 2021 Titans Fan of the Year, Stephani, on with us. Y'all go follow her on Twitter. She actually has her handle popped up there at StephaniP96. And we also have my amazing wife, Carrie, join us with our beautiful little baby girl, ready in her cheerleading outfit. Maybe we can get her out there on the field for the Titans cheering for them next year.
Love to see
Stephani, how you doing tonight?
it. Love to see it. Oh my goodness, doing great. Thank you so much, Tyler, Carrie, baby Charlotte, having me on the show. I absolutely love it. She is already rocking Junior a lot vibes. I see it, Queen. I see you. And thank you so much for having me. It's. I appreciate you bringing me on. It's going to be a blast. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I couldn't think of, really to start this off because after I got to thinking about it more and more, I had asked some other people and I thought it clicked. I was like, why am I not asking the current Titans Fan of the Year to come on and be the first one to start this series off? Because, I mean, that comes with so many perks besides the honor of being chosen. I mean, we're looking at not this Sunday, but next Sunday, you're going to be going to the Super Bowl. And that's going to be an experience all in itself.
Of a lifetime. I mean, I leave out on Thursday morning, the 10th. We go directly to California. We get off at LAX. We have a few hours, and then we're right on board to the Honors Awards. We each get to us and our guests get to attend the Honors Award and get to see everything go down. We get to be in the same room with the hottest stars in the NFL, which is absolutely insane. I mean, you have to just think, I'm a Titans fan first, but I'm a football fanatic. And so to be in the room with some of the biggest people, especially, even Mike Vrabel, which meeting him already was amazing, but getting to see him in person, hopefully accept that Coach of the Year award is going to be so much fun. Just seeing everybody and getting to kind of mingle and be in that environment. Apparently there's some talks of a red carpet and things like that. And I'm just like, you're talking to a small town girl that's literally in a town called Tullahoma that's maybe less than 5,000 people, and you're just like, maybe 3,000 people altogether. It's a very small town. One main road connects us from point A to point B. So we're going from that to California. Like, that's so huge. It's a culture shock for sure. I already have a recording on my phone when people ask me, "Why do you sound like that? Where are you from?" Because I know my accent's going to come out super strong out on the West Coast.
Oh yeah, and like you said, the NFL honors hopefully going to be seeing Vrabel accept that Coach of the Year
For
award. I
sure,
mean,
for sure.
I don't know of any other coach that deserves it more than he does this
Exactly.
year. And you like you said, you've already got to meet him this year, getting to go out on the field and be the 12th Titan. And I have to say, so before we got our season tickets, the way it kind of got brought up was my wife actually set up a stadium tour and everything, which
Hmm.
of course it was smack down middle of COVID and like when it first started. So we weren't able to go everywhere in the stadium,
Hmm.
but we did get to go around and see like the sword, everything. I got to pick it up,
Hmm.
take a picture with it, and I was actually out on the field holding the Tennessee Tough flag when the game that you were the 12th Titan, and I watch you come out there and pick this sword up, and you're swinging it around. I'm like, I remember that sword got a little bit of weight to it,
It
like,
does.
but
It
she
is
is
very
just,
real. It's very real. The whole
yeah,
time, just don't stab your foot, just
yeah.
and luckily Nate was behind me. The thing was is I got on the field and I'll be honest, I kind of blacked out for that initial like the moment we got out there. It was very real. It was very surreal. I didn't understand what I had done until after I saw Jim Wyatt post it on Twitter, and I finally watched the video. Like I saw bits and pieces from what people were sending me, but I watched the whole thing, and I was just
Mhm.
like, I'm just out here swinging it around like it weighs 2 pounds. Like, and Nate is in the background just cheering, and it was like the Super Bowl is incredible and it's a lifetime experience. But like that moment on the field that I got to share with him, nothing will top that for me. Like the moment I picked him up and I swung him around was kind of when I came back because I saw everybody just cheering and clapping and things like that. And then we were just walking off, and I was trying to hold it together because it was just one of those insane moments where it's just like I get to have this moment with Nate forever, and that's gonna be so fun to when he gets older and he gets to see what he's done.
Exactly. And since we're talking about it, in case anyone hasn't seen it, that I know that video's been everywhere all over Twitter, but we're going to play that for everyone right now.
Yeah. It does. It gets
And
me every time. Like I've seen
yeah,
it like 55,000 times, and it still gets me.
I
That's
mean,
like the
hey, there's
music in
nothing
the
wrong with that.
background.
Mm,
The
it
music is
was.
like so like climatic. Like
It
it's just like,
was.
yeah, this is an
It
awesome
was.
moment.
And then like Nate was just like he was cheering and he was going, and he was like, "You're doing good, Mama." And I heard it at the back of my head, and I was just like, you know,
Oh
tears
my
because like
god.
I don't think I could have. He did so well. And for a 5-year-old to go out in the middle of the field where there's 70,000 fans and he just lived in it. Like,
Yeah.
I know that moment was about me, but I'm just like, I'm so proud of him because that is a lot to handle for a
Yeah.
Hmm.
5-year-old. And he handled it really well.
I
Well,
agree.
you're thinking about it as a parent because you're
Hmm.
like yes, this moment is big for me, but like you said, he's a 5-year-old out there on the field in front of everybody.
Yeah.
He's then going to the sideline and he's around all these players as well. And I mean that you think
Crazy.
most kids in that moment they're like, okay, I'm gonna go in my little shell
Yeah.
now and kind of
Mhm.
like I'm around a lot of people I don't know. but I'm sure he was just living
Oh
it
no, he
up.
went and dapped Coach Rabel before I did. KB, he dapped KB before I did. He was just like, Mom, look," and he was just dapping as many people as he could. He
Yeah.
didn't. He was living his best life at that point. I was
Yeah.
so
He was coming back to you. Hey, Mom, come here. Let me introduce
yeah.
you
He was like,
to Byard. And
yeah, Byron came. We were all breaking. They were all breaking to come out in the to come back in from their moment in the middle of the field, like they do for every game. And then
Mhm.
Coach Grable was just like, "Hey, KB, this is Stephanie," and Nate just went up and said, "Hey, KB," and I'm just like, "Who are you?" Like I'm sitting there just like, and KB's like, "Can we get a picture?" And I'm like, "You don't have to ask that twice." So I'm trying to take a picture, and everybody saw the good picture, but they didn't see the first picture I took because my hand was shaking, and it cuts off the top part of KB's hand. And so he's like, "You can take a second one." I was like, "Appreciate it," because I'm just like this. My hands are just like
Yeah.
shaking. I'm trying to take this picture with KB, and Nate's over here just like, "Go, go," and I'm like. And then he just like kept walking around, just dap, dap, dap. And then
Yeah.
all the guys were just like, "He's not little man," and things like that. And I'm like, "You just sitting here living your best life." Jeffrey Simmons is standing over there. Ryan Tannehill, who's way bigger in person. I did not realize how tall that man was. And then you got, I think it was Elijah Moden was over there. And then behind me was Jeff Swaim, Deontay Foreman. There was a bunch, like they just all ran. David Long Jr. It was so
Mhm.
crazy just to see them that close up. And then they're like, "You want to stand here during the the start, like the pledge of the pledge of
The
allegiance."
national anthem.
National anthem, sorry, national anthem.
Oh, you're
And
good.
I said the pledge of allegiance, the national anthem, and I'm just standing there. There's a picture with me, Vrabel, and KB, and I'm just standing there, just I'm like, this is it. This is this is the epitome of my life, and I could not handle it. It was so fantastic.
Oh, I bet. I mean, I know. Like I've met Keith Bullock
Mhm.
before, but being like if I was in that moment that you were in, because I know how starstruck I was then. But if I was in that moment where I was with Vrabel on the sidelines, all the play, like I would be, I'd be at a loss. I wouldn't
I
be
was
able to
pretty
get any words
speechless.
out.
I was pretty speechless except for some, basic hi, how are you? I'm glad they
Yeah.
didn't ask me too many other questions because it wasn't going to come out. It wasn't, it was not going to come out. There was no way I was going to be able to talk. I can just be, shake my head, give yes, no answers, just a lot of the personnel, the people that work for the Titans and get this running. It was so hectic, but at the same time, it was so calming because it was just something that I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this is gonna be with me forever. And oh gosh, it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Oh, I bet. So, and I'm wondering, no spoilers now, but I am
Mhm.
wondering if this moment will show up on your top 10. But we'll
This
start into that, and we'll
is
start from we'll start from 10 and go through 6 first. So, starting out with your, you know, 10th moment from this year that you consider one of the best moments or play, whatever it is. I'm ready to hear them.
okay. So number 10 for me was actually it starts in the off season, the last year's off season. It was the free agent signings of Dupree and Danico Autry. I really think that this kind of set the stage for what our defense was going to be this year. However, just seeing the effects of not only Bud Dupree, because he's Bud Dupree, but Danico, I think, was the
Mhm.
most underrated signing of the entire season, because this man just wreaked havoc. I feel like he not only bolstered his position, but he bolstered Jeffrey's, because they were able to tag team it and do a lot of different looks that we weren't able to when we didn't
Mhm.
have that person next to Simmons the prior year. So definitely number 10.
Oh yeah, I have to agree. Like Danico Autry, because we knew signing Bud Dupree, like that was he's a top guy.
Mhm.
Granted, he was coming back from injury. I think he's going to be even better going
Next year,
forward.
oh, for sure.
But but Autry was so underrated. I mean, when we made our video talking about them signing him, we had Colts fans commenting on the video, "Oh, y'all think y'all are getting something special?" He was getting that because of the Colts defensive line. I'm like, do y'all not understand? Like, he's coming to a defensive line with Harold Landry, Bud Dupree, Jeffrey Simmons. It's not like he's downgrading like to some other team with no other pass rusher. Like, he's coming to a dominant front. And I mean, he showed it this year. He showed out. It seemed like every time you turned around, you were hearing his name be called.
Mm-hmm. It was something special because I feel like it did take a little bit of time for their chemistry to form, but you have to give it. This is their first year in this front, playing with one another, so it's going to take time for them to gel. But once they start gelling, I feel like it was like at the Rams game is when it kind of just started rearing its ugly head for everybody else in the league, not for us, but just everybody else in the league. And I'm just like, just to kind of see Danico get the respect that he deserved, because it was funny to me. Throughout the season, you would see Colts fans like, we didn't get this Danico or da 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 da, and I'm like, well, you guys have a different front than we do. Like, you're literally putting him next to Pro Bowl Jeffrey Simmons. Like, they both can wreak havoc because you're going to have to double team one and let go of the other. Then you have Harold out here who's playing out of his mind this year. Pay that man contract extension, get him paid right now.
Yes.
Yep.
Before you do anything else, Harold gets paid.
Yes.
That man his money and let him go on his merry way and be happy, because it's really crazy to say, given the fact that our defense was like the 32nd ranked the prior year, for them to go from there to where they are now, night and day. I'm like, do not let this front four go. Do not let them go. Like, the fact that you can rush with 4 and drop back 7 was crazy, because we were never able to do that because we couldn't generate a pass rush. And thank goodness for Bud Dupree, because a lot of people wanted to comment on his game. I'm like, just because his sack stat isn't up there with everybody else's doesn't mean he's getting in the backfield. When he was out for 3 games, we did not generate a pass rush as much as we did when he was in the games. So just because his stats aren't jumping off on paper doesn't mean he's not affecting the game. Like, he's still in the backfield. He's causing people to have to double him because of who he is. There's more to him than just what's on a piece of paper. But then at the Steelers game, he got his first, he got his sack against Ben, and it just kind of took off from there. So definitely excited to see what they can do next year after having now a full year with one another under the belt. I just, and then the addition of Cunningham. This man has made an impact from like the first game he was in. Like, I've never seen a man that big on defense with that type of speed. Like, he was chasing receivers, running backs everywhere. He was the Texans game, I believe, is where it was just like, obviously against his old team, he was just flying. And I feel like that's something that you can't teach. And for John Robinson to get him off of waivers, thank you to the other 20-something other teams that said, nope, I'm good. Thank you. Because we ended up getting him. And
Yes.
I don't know what the other 27 teams' thought process was in not picking him up. Like, because obviously when he got released, my brother and I were texting back and forth about it. And I was like, I'd love to have him, but I don't see how he drops to us
100%.
in waivers. And then next thing I know, I get the notification on my phone and I look, I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. I was like, it's done. So, yeah, that was another.
Yeah, I remember you freaking out that day.
So now moving into your number. Yeah, I was texting you. I was like, this is fixing to, like, this changes this linebacking core. Like,
100%.
it gives us more depth when everyone gets healthy. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you were in the kitchen. You were like, "No way, no way!" You're just freaking out, and I was like, "What's going on?"
I felt that. I feel that. Just like little fun fact though, the loss against the Patriots is actually what caused us to jump ahead of them in waivers to be able to claim Cunningham because I feel like Bill Belichick wasn't going to let him go much further. I don't think he would have passed
No,
the Patriots.
no, I don't think so either. So now we'll move into your number 9 moment or play from this past season.
Number 9 is a play, and it was the overtime Carson Wentz interception. And now it's not necessarily a Titans built moment, but the Kevin intercepted that pass, ended up setting up for Randy Bullock to get that game-winning field goal and to sweep the Colts for another season, or actually for the first season for a while. And if I'm not mistaken, they haven't swept them for maybe a good minute. We're always in their rear view mirror as the little brothers. So it was nice to get a double, sweep of them. So that's definitely my number 9 because I felt like at that moment Carson Wentz just Carson Wentz, and that's that's really all it is. Kevin Byard read that play to a T, jumped that receiver in that route, and kudos to Kevin. What a wonderful year for that.
Yeah. Man. Oh, yes.
Oh,
he
yeah.
was. So it was funny because, you mentioned how bad the defense was last year. And, obviously watching the games last year, we're all, me, my brother, my wife, and my brother's fiance are all talking about it. And, we have been hyping Kevin Byard up. Like, hey, this dude. And obviously last year he had a down year and because of just how the defense played as a whole. And, my wife, she was like, I don't really, I don't see what the hype was with him at the time. And I'm like, look, he's had a down year. He's going to come back this next year. I said, with how they're fixing this defense.
He didn't.
Yeah,
it was like Kevin was playing out of his position quite a few times throughout the year. So he really couldn't focus on his safety position because he didn't have that, like Harry said, the supporting cast to help him do what his job is intended to do.
Yeah, I was
and
like,
then this year,
the big deal about with Kevin Byard, like he's not that great, like whatever, this is my first year really watching the Titans, and then this year, I was like, yo, like this man
this
is
was rookie, to me. This was rookie season Kevin Byard. Like this year reminded me so much of rookie season Kevin, because rookie season Kevin was off the chain. Like this, you could not. That's where he got his ball hawk nickname, was from his rookie second season actually. And so to be able to see him after the down year he had turn it, be able to have his game completely change because of the supporting cast made a huge difference. Like he just got that confidence and didn't let it go, and I love it. He deserves it. He absolutely deserves the year that he's having.
He does. And he got to play off of his instincts this year because, you look at, like you mentioned, the pick against Wentz. He knew whenever Wentz took that snap, he knew where Wentz had been going with it, knew he was going to try and force it into Pittman again. And he didn't wait around. He broke on that route and made Wentz pay for it. And, like you said, Wentz just winced, and he had done it earlier in the game. Like, that I remember whenever we first seen that the Colts got him, and of course going back and forth with Colts fans because that's always fun. Like you said, and I'm like, guys, y'all realize y'all have Carson Wentz, like this dude. Oh, well, he had this MVP like season couple years. I'm like, I don't see it happening. And then so many times this year, like they would look at games. Oh, well, he had this. Well, yeah, he also had like 10 passes that were dropped by the opposing defense that should have been picked off. Like he easily should have led the league in interceptions this year.
My thing is with Carson, like he is who he thought he was. My thing is that he's had one great season, and then the rest is nothing but riddled with injuries and just. They say it's a supporting cast, but I think it's just Carson Wentz. He has a ceiling, and that was it. Like in that moment, you're supposed to
Mhm.
go handle it with the Jags, and he crumbled. Like there was nothing. Like that offensive line looked like Swiss cheese, and it was supposed to be the best offensive line of the year. Carson couldn't stay off the ground, and I was just like, I'm not surprised. Like everybody was just
Mhm.
like, he thought he was the second coming of Jesus when they signed him. I'm like, Carson Wentz is just Carson Wentz. Like y'all would have done better bringing in Nick Foles when he was injured just to spite Carson and make Nick do good. Like I'm more terrified of Nick Foles than I am of Carson Wentz. Like I'm like, let's just be honest. Nick Foles as a backup is way more terrifying than Carson Wentz as a starter.
Yeah, I mean, don't if you throw Nick Foles out there as the starter all year long, okay, he kind of,
He fumbles.
I'm
He's
not
not
as
meant to be a
yeah,
starter. Nick
no,
Foles is not
but
meant to be a starter.
you have him in that backup role, and it's like, okay, you know what, Wentz is doing it. Let's throw him out there, and it's like he flips a switch. So I'm with you there. I was never really worried about Wentz going to the Colts, and of course, their argument was, oh well, look what Rivers done to y'all's defense. I was like, y'all really didn't improve from Rivers. Like y'all probably would have done better to see if you could have got Philip Rivers back,
Back,
even though
yeah.
like he couldn't move around. Like at least he could throw the short passes and check it down and tear up our defense at the
Mm-hmm.
time. Like,
It's hilarious.
let's get to a couple of these comments here right quick. We got TA watching here. Tighten up. Congrats on our baby. Thank you, TA. And I know you and your wife just had y'all second. Congrats to y'all.
Yes.
Hope everyone's doing well. And then we have Stanley Wilson saying, "What's up? See that we hired Tim Kelly as offensive senior coordinator. So we shall see how this goes." And I want to, right quick before we continue on to more of your top moments, want to get your thoughts on that.
I actually don't mind it. Like it just seems like they're doing the same thing they did with Shane Bowen. They brought in Jim Schwartz as a overseer. I feel like two heads are better than one. If Tim sees something that Shane's not seeing, and vice versa. I mean, you know, it was crazy to me because from what I've heard, I believe Tim was supposed to interview last year, but the Texans blocked it, so we couldn't
Mm.
interview him as our OC. And so that's when I believe they went to Shane Bowen and brought him up, or not Shane, Todd Downing, and brought him up. And
Okay.
so my thing with it is if it helps him to be able to see things that he may not be seeing, and vice versa, they can kind of commingle. I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm happy with that. Just, you know, I want to see some variety, like this, like
Mhm.
run, pass, or things like that, where teams are sniffing out what we're doing because we do the same thing every single um,
Yes.
first, second, third down. It's just I would like to see a little variety. Now I don't want to go away from the run because that's what we're used to.
Mhm.
Obviously, though, with this being a passing league, we may see some more passing, but I feel like if you don't make Ryan Tannehill throw more than he has to, I think it'll be all right.
He's not
Like
gonna get better. Mm.
I think it'll be all right. Like, just, you have Henry. I kind of really hope they bring back Foreman because Henry and Foreman
Yes.
Mhm.
together, I would not want to tackle that for 4 quarters. Not at all. I wouldn't want
No.
any part of it. I wouldn't want no part of it.
No, because those are two big guys,
Big guy.
and most of the time, if Henry goes off, teams are like, okay, we got a smaller guy back there. We don't have to worry about really getting just pounded into the ground. And then they look back up and they see Foreman, and it's like, okay, well, let's buckle this back up a little bit tighter again because it's coming. So, and yeah, I like the Tim Kelly hire. I seen
Mhm.
something on Twitter earlier where I think from what they were reporting, he's going to have more say
Mhm.
on like the passing game,
The passing
which
game,
I
yeah,
like
I do too.
because
I like it
I,
too.
I'll be honest, when it came, especially the last game against the Bengals, Downing's pass concepts, I didn't like them. The
They
route
were
combinations he
pedestrian. To
had,
be honest, they were
yeah.
very pedestrian.
And I mean, even going back to that RPO bubble screen, like you can't come out in the exact same formation after you had only gained 3 yards on it the first time. And I'm blanking on the Bengals defensive back that picked it off.
Jesse
But
Bates.
yeah, Bates had the first one. I think it was like Hilton that had the bubble screen.
That had the big bubble screen. Yeah, he hit the ball up,
yeah.
deflected it, and then he caught his own deflection.
Like he almost had that the first time you ran it. So why are you coming back out? Same formation again, like that's setting Tannehill up for no success there. And it was like they were waiting on it. Like he literally said on the sidelines, like, they're going to come back to it and throw it. I got it.
Inside the NFL had posted a clip from that game where they were calling it on the sideline, and I'm like, this is embarrassing. Like this is the playoffs. Like it could get you by in the regular season, but not in the post. It cannot get you by in the postseason at all. So I'm excited. Also, Davis Mills for like those last like 3 or 4 games, he was turning it up. Like he looked incredible. And I'm like, it baffled me kind of that the Texans let him go because he really had Davis Mills. Like when you can put up 40 plus points on the Chargers that have one of the better defense in the league, Davis Mills was carving them up. And I'm like, even if ours, granted, our team sometimes makes rookie quarterbacks look like Hall of Famers. Even the game against us, once Davis Mills got comfortable, he looked so good. And I'm like, thank you again to the Texans. I appreciate it because he really did help the fundamentals of his passing game kind of come alive for those last like 4 games of the season.
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, I'm excited because, it gives that overlook for Downing since it does look like he's going to be back for sure. And it's like, maybe Kelly can open his eyes up some and be like, all right, dude, you're being way too predictable here. Or, going back like to the first interception Tannehill threw when he was looking at Julio. I mean, it got brought up and I didn't notice it when I was at the game, but no one was streaking up the left side of the field or on Tannehill's left. So Bates had no reason to even try and hover in the middle. He knew, okay, I can just slide over to Julio and I've got it.
Boom.
So, but now getting back to more positive again, number 8.
Dominating the Chiefs. The Chiefs game was absolutely incredible. I was there for it, and it was just it was so much fun, like just to kind of watch them, because there's not very many games where they won from the first minute of the first quarter to the fourth quarter. So it was just so much fun to watch them dominate a team that, for better or worse, really kind of was striking out. Like, and I get it, you can't help who you play and things like that at that particular time. But the Chiefs just did not look like themselves. But we take them as at any point in time they could turn it up and look like themselves. So it's kind of like you can never count Patrick Mahomes out. It's Patrick Mahomes. But just to kind of watch the defense like live in the backfield, the offense was generating scores. You could definitely tell after the second half, pretty much they shut them out the second half because they only got a field goal for the whole game. And the defense was just having fun. They were back there. They were giving Patty Mahomes a hard time. Kevin batted down that ball for a fumble. Even Rashard Evans got in and had an interception that game. That was so much fun to watch.
It really was because, going into that game, even after the Titans got up a couple of scores, I'm sitting there in the stands. I'm like, okay, foot on neck. Do not we got to keep pouring this on because, like you said, it's the Chiefs. It's Patrick Mahomes, this high-powered offense. It's like if you get comfortable at all, they can start putting things together and coming back on you. And I was like, we just kept on dominating on them. I'm like, okay, this is what I like to see. Yes. When we can take one of the top teams in not just the AFC, but in the league and dominate them. Like, that should show everyone this Titans team this year is different.
It was
So, and
different.
this defense is different.
It was very different because it was just kind of like, oh, I kind of lost my train of thought for a second, but I was just sitting there and I was like, well, like you said, you have to keep it on because like against Washington the prior week, they came back and won, because
Mhm.
Washington got comfortable. And I'm like, well, they could get comfortable at any time. But it was just like you could definitely tell that once they felt that the defense had that swag on him, it just changed the
Mhm.
whole perspective of the game. Like the Chiefs couldn't get anywhere near, I think, like the 30-yard line. I don't think they sniffed close to the end
Mhm.
zone the entire game except for the one field goal. But other than that, it was exciting because, like you said, I feel like they're the NFL darlings of the league. Like they get
Mhm.
they get a lot of praise and things like that, and a lot of respect and give credit because Patty Mahomes and company is Patty Mahomes and company.
Mhm.
Um, but like to kind of like break their spirit, it was refreshing. It was refreshing.
Yeah. Now, only bad thing is all the teams that had to play them after the Titans done that. Like, I kind of feel bad for them because it was like it was a
Mm,
wake up call for them. Like, okay, like we can't always hit the deep ball now. We're fixing to change this offense up a little bit. Just
mhm,
start taking what everyone gives us. And you know what? Tyreek Hill, fastest dude in the league. We'll
mhm.
just put the ball in his hands and let him make someone miss. Like,
It,
we won't worry about hitting him on the deep shot.
what was that? It kind of mimicked because, and it's what's funny is that this is coming off of a short week with a Monday night game against the Bills where we were not expected to win. Just like last year, we were not
Hmm.
expected to win because we hadn't practiced in like 2 weeks. And then we come out and smack the Bills in the mouth. And then after we played the Bills, they turned it all the way up and just cremated every other team after they played. And it was the same thing this year,
Yeah.
but just reverse games. Like we had
Hmm.
the Bills, and then we had Patty Mahomes, and then after that, they just turned it up and became a hot team. After that, they got
Yeah,
embarrassed.
exactly. Exactly. Because you're thinking, they're looking at it like, the Bills last year, this team hasn't practiced in so long. And then we get beat, and it's like, okay, we just got beat by a team that hasn't practiced in 2 weeks. Not only did we get beat, we got flat out embarrassed.
Hmm.
We're taking it out on the rest of our schedule.
For
And then,
sure.
like you said, same thing with the Chiefs this year. So, yes, that game was so much fun to watch. We were there yelling the whole time, screaming, happy. It was just a blast. Most of the time in Nissan Stadium this year, it was just a great time. And now we'll move to your number 7 moment.
Excuse me, the number 7 moment on my list. Now, this one was kind of hard, but I will say it is the Dolphins games, but for a couple of different reasons besides being the 12th Titan. Now, if it was strictly the 12th Titan, it would be in my top 5. But I believe for me, number 7 was the Dolphins game because I feel like it was against a quarterback who's very mobile, and usually against mobile
Mm,
quarterbacks, we're not that great on defense. But I kind of really saw, and I feel like everybody else saw what our defense was truly made of because of the fact they pretty much bottled up Tua for that entire game. With the weather and
mhm,
things like that, people want to blame it on that. I'm like, well, you're going to play in bad weather anywhere you go. There's a chance it might rain. There's a chance it might snow. You have to be prepared for that. And Tua was not prepared for that.
mhm.
And that moment where you see him on the sideline get upset, I love those moments. I love those moments. I live for those moments he gets upset. But for me, it was also because at the end of the game, I was inside in the club section with a ton of other people because the Dolphins game was pretty much
Mhm.
kind of said and done at that point. But we were all watching both the Raiders and the Colts and the Bengals and the Chiefs. And everybody was just kind of
Mhm.
holding their breath at that point because we were watching the Raiders and the Colts and we're like, oh my gosh, the Colts dropped another game. That was awesome. But we were all zoned in to the
Mhm.
uh, to the Bengals and the Chiefs, and that last minute I feel like was the longest 3 minutes, 5 minutes of my life because it kept going from false start to pass interference to this and that. but the Bengals ended up kicking the field goal. And when I tell you, everybody erupted. It was just insane. You couldn't, because we took back that number one spot when the Chiefs lost, and it made it more manageable that we were the number one seed. Something that I don't think anyone had on their bingo card. I know, division titles one thing, but the number one seed is a totally different thing. It's just something that we haven't done in a very long time, and so to be in there with that moment was with all other fans, and there was like personnel from the Titans walking through. There was cheerleaders. It was just so much fun to watch.
Oh yeah, so it was funny because after the Dolphins game was over, I didn't know if they would pull anything up on, the Jumbotron or anything like that. And, like you said, the weather wasn't the best. So we left the stadium and we're walking out. And then, like you said, all of a sudden we hadn't got far from the stadium at all. We just hear it erupt. And, there was a guy trying to watch the game on his phone, and, we're looking at it, trying to figure out what's going on. And as soon as we heard the crowd erupt, I was like, yeah, we ain't got to watch that. We know he makes it. Like the Bengals won. We're back to number one. I was like, all we had to do was hear that eruption.
We kind of heard that too, like after the crowd we were in, because the crowd that we were walking over with, they also all had their phones out. They're all looking at this. And then so like there's all of us cheering, like, yeah, like clapping and cheering. And then we hear in the stadium, we're like, oh, they just found out too.
It was just crazy how bonkers everybody went. It was so much fun to be in that moment.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was, like you said, for so many different reasons, that is definitely a top moment from this year. And now we'll move to your number 6 moment.
Number 6 was actually, because I was watching from home. It was the playoff game, but it was a portion. It was watching Derrick Henry return. Like obviously we had that crazy amount of buildup. I've kind of I'm already over that game. I'm kind of moving past into the ready for the off season, thing like that. So it's not sad for me to talk about anymore and things like that. But watching Henry come out, and for you guys that were at the game, I couldn't imagine how deafeningly loud it was, because from the TV, I could not hear the commentators. I could not hear them. The crowd was so loud because usually they don't show introductions on TV. They'll just show them at the game. But they showed Tannehill coming out, and then they showed Henry, and just to hear that crowd, it gave me chills. It was just crazy to watch, because during warm-ups he had came out, but he went behind everybody because he didn't want to make that about him, so he kind of went behind somebody and just kind of practiced. But like when they announced him and the smoke went out, and just to hear that crowd just erupt, I'm like, I do. How was it? Was it even? I would assume it's even louder at the stadium.
So since you mention it, I will play this video because I put it on here when we did our game review for that game, and I'll play it for you right quick here.
Awesome. Yeah.
Man, that just yes, gives me chills just thinking back to that moment. It was just so amazing to be there, and you could feel like the vibrations around you of literally just everyone just losing it. It was, oh my God, amazing.
The energy that was in the stadium, because like you said, whenever they were warming up and everything, the running backs got introduced, and you've seen that he didn't come out with them. But then when all the offensive and defensive linemen come out, he kind of snuck out. Some people saw him and started cheering. But usually, like, I'll record all of the introduction. And as soon as they got to Tannehill, I went ahead and stopped my first one and started a new one, because I was like, I knew they were going to save Henry for last. This place is about to go crazy. Like, just feeling the energy and the vibrations in that stadium, I was like, okay, this is a whole nother level like I've never seen Nissan Stadium like this.
Mm-mm. I feel like it hasn't been like that since LP Field. Like it really
Mhm.
just to kind of see how the fans turned out. And obviously we didn't get the ending that we wanted, but just to kind of see that home field advantage kind of just be there and be in that moment, like you said. Literally, I just want to take a moment to shout out each and every person that went to that game, because when I tell you, like I said, listening to the commentators, I could not hear, like I heard the crowd over the commentators that were on the TV the entire game. It was just like you couldn't hear. I could see Joe Burrow kind of like motion. He couldn't hear anything. In his headpiece, it went out. So he was just kind of like making motions. I can't hear you. The crowd was electric, and it was
Mhm.
a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, for sure. And I've said we need to have that energy in Nissan Stadium for every home game
Definitely.
because for a couple of the Titans sacks that really got taken off the board for the timeout and the delay of game, like you couldn't hear, you never heard the whistle.
I didn't,
Like,
even on the TV, I didn't hear a whistle. And I was like, where was the whistle? You guys couldn't hear the whistle for the timeout. You couldn't hear the whistle for anything else. I'm like, I didn't hear nothing. I didn't hear
yeah,
one whistle. But it was definitely loud. It was so
yeah.
loud.
So I mean, again, just all these moments you've mentioned so far, I'm like, you can't argue with any of them because I mean, they're top moments for sure. And just from watching that Derrick Henry video, it's got me a little lost. That was your number 6 moment, correct?
Mhm. That was my number 6
So
moment.
so we'll take a little break right quick, and we're gonna hop into our best bets segment presented by DraftKings. And DraftKings has a good offer for new customers. We're coming up on the Super Bowl, and in honor of the big game, DraftKings, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56 to 1 odds on either team. All you have to do is bet just $5 and get $280 in free
Man, you
bets
better
if your
get
team
that
wins.
money.
DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in New York, meaning you can bet from almost a third of the country. If the sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Football Contest for Super Bowl 56. New customers can get a free shot at a $1 million top prize with their first deposit. All you have to do, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use promo code TPPN, and get 56 to 1 odds on either team. Bet $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code TPPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. Must be 21 years or older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for a full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Voided where prohibited. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Tennessee, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, call 877-8 467-369 or text 467-389. And Stephanie, I know from seeing you tweet out, you like throwing some bets down. I like throwing some bets down. We're still a little over a week away
Mhm.
from the Super Bowl. But have you been looking ahead at any bets that you kind of have your eye on? And we always tell everyone, this is not betting advice.
For
We
sure.
had a segment. Well, we had a segment all throughout the season, and somehow, my brother and I were competing back and forth. I ended up being either 50% on the bets that I threw out or a little over 50%. And we threw out 2 every week. So I wanted to kind of spring this on you and see, have you been looking ahead at any bets for the Super Bowl and what do you like?
A few. I kind of stick to when it comes to the Super Bowl. I kind of stick to player props. I believe
Mhm.
player props give you the best bang for your buck. Because when you're betting, I feel like spreads, points, things like that, it literally could go either way with those. And I kind of like the safer bets for the Super Bowl. I've definitely been eyeing a Matt Stafford at INT or interception because I feel like this Bengals defense is hungry and they could cause him to make a mistake. Um, and also, the Bengals have at least created a turnover or INT in I know their last couple of games. So I definitely would look at Matt Stafford for at least one interception. I haven't looked to see what it is exactly on DraftKings, but if it's over point 0.5, take it. Like I feel like he'll at least throw something. Something's going to get batted down. Hilton might, bat his own intercept. Bat
Yeah.
his pass down, or Jesse may jump a route. You know,
Mhm.
either one of those. I really do like a Matt Stafford interception in that game.
So I pulled up my DraftKings app since we're talking about it and looked. They do have it as the over or under a half interception, and for over a half interception, those odds are minus 150. So
Little
it looks
juice.
like they're thinking.
Confused. But they are
Yeah.
thinking that Matt is going to. Sometimes it just kind of depends on your bankroll management because that's very important. Bankroll management, super important to have. But if you feel comfortable, 150 to me is probably the best odds you're going to find because of the fact they're thinking that it could happen. Just that's
Yeah.
what those odds are. They're really thinking it could happen. So they're like, why not get a little more juice out of it? Still think it's worth the money though. I really feel Matt could throw at least one.
Right. And given this Rams defense, I mean, they have Joe Burrow over a half interception at minus 130.
Hmm.
But one other thing I want to hit on, because obviously you have Jamar Chase, you have Cooper Cup,
Hmm.
the two guys of when you think of these offenses, you think of them. For Cooper Cup, his over and under on yards, they have at 104.5. And and for Jamar Chase, they have it at 79.5.
104. That's so.
Yes.
That is so. I mean, it's not doable because you're talking about Cooper Cup, but when it comes to big games like this, popular props, I personally just popular props,
Hmm.
I tend to stay away from now. Like Tyler Higbee, I feel like is a great look because if they get on top of Cooper Cup, if they get on top of Odell Beckham, you still have
Hmm.
Tyler Higbee. That's one of Matthew Stafford's prime targets, especially in the end zone. Definitely look at his receptions and possibly an anytime touchdown, given if Cooper and Odell Beckham is both covered by their defense. You have Tyler Higbee
Hmm.
in the background just waiting there, and Matt will easily chuck it to Tyler with no problem. So definitely take a look at Tyler Higbee receptions and an anytime touchdown. I'm pretty sure you can get a
I,
good odds for Tyler Higbee.
I like that. I'm looking right now. As of right now, they don't have him on there, but
Mhm.
I do know that's because he got injured in the NFC Championship
I
game.
got you. So they
So,
don't know how he's gonna
yeah,
do.
but they may be holding out just to make sure that he's going to be active for this game. I think he's going to play.
He's got a backup.
So,
Oh, he's got a very long name too. He's got the
yeah,
second tight end that's in there.
I'm,
If Higsby's not playing, if there's something which I highly doubt. Well, if it's something extenuating, then yes. But
yeah.
just keep an eye on Tyler Higbee this week. Also, maybe keep an eye on Van Jefferson. Van
Mhm.
Jefferson is that third wide receiver that's sneaky, can get in the end zone very quickly. But like you said, Odell and Cooper are going to be, to me, the most betted props,
Mhm.
and they're going to keep running up those props. So I just feel like maybe kind of go on the off chance of a Higby or Van
Right.
Jefferson, maybe even a Sony, because I don't know how Cam Akers is going to fare.
Right.
said he's props to him. He's coming back off of an
Mhm.
Achilles, but I feel like
And he's
Sony.
coming back strong.
Yeah, and I feel like Sony just gets this burst of energy that's
Mhm.
just it's hard to take Sony Michelle down. And so definitely kind of look at those not so popular betted, because I feel like if you didn't get the lines early on in the week, they're going to
Mhm.
be completely inflated before next week. So
Yeah, and that actually surprised me when I looked at Cooper Cup, because obviously we know the guy can do it,
mhm.
but most of the time when I'm looking at these, and I even glanced down at Odell, and they have his over under at 64 and a half. Van Jefferson they have at 31 and a half, but I've been seeing it last couple of weeks, even NFC Championship game. If I'm remembering correctly, I seen Odell with it was like over 30 something and a half on
Mhm.
the yard, and I'm like, well, yeah, I would take that. But now
I
looking
would.
at it
I would.
at 64 and a half, I'm like, and even Cooper Cup, if his was down in the 80s, I'm like, okay, I could probably see that happening. But when you jump to that 104
It's so
for
high.
any receiver, I'm like,
It's so high.
God.
You might be able to get a live line if it's getting that high.
Mhm.
But I think also they're counting on Mr. Runs his mouth Eli Apple, getting burnt by Cooper Cup quite a bit. So I can see why they would put the
Mhm.
lines up that high, because oh gosh, that man gets burnt more than toast, but he talks
No.
so much stuff. So it's just kind of depending on who Eli Apple takes, because it just between him and Odell. But I'm pretty sure depends on who they're going to put him on. I would watch for
Mhm.
that too, because a lot of DraftKings is really good for live bets. So definitely take a look at those live lines, especially if you see Eli on Cooper for the game. I would probably just go ahead and take that over, because Eli
Yeah.
gives up so many yards. It's not even funny.
Now, what's going to be bad is, as you mentioned, I hate hearing him run his mouth and everything.
Mhm.
Y- What's going to be bad is if he has that interception
I,
on Stafford.
but I'm gonna win either way, so I'm
Yeah.
like, you win and you lose. Eli
Eli,
made that one
I got to
saving.
hear him run his mouth, but I win some money. I'll take the money.
I just mute him. I've muted
Eh,
him at this point, so I don't really have to hear him ramble. But I'm just like, I took pictures every time last week when he got burnt by Tyreek Hill, and it was absolutely hilarious just to kind of see the progression of his game. And he had the one saving, and it was the game saving touchdown, or game saving
Tackle.
tackle, where he just kept them from getting, because I feel like if that would have changed the whole trajectory of the
Hmm.
game if they would have got that touchdown. Now, granted, I don't know why you would go for a touchdown when you're up that many
Nah.
points, but that's nor here or there. That's a
Right.
coach decision. That's not my decision. I don't get paid that money to come up with that. But yeah, definitely that. And then real quickly, maybe for the Bengals, I would the Bengals, obviously Jamar Chase is going to be heavily betted.
Hmm.
However, you're going to have him go up against Jalen Ramsey.
Right.
Um, so he's going to, if you see the line going up, wait before the game and bet the under, because I believe that Jamar Chase, especially with Jalen, I
Hmm.
think Jalen's going to corral him. He may let up one play here or there, but I don't see
Right.
Jalen letting Jamar Chase just run all over him the entire game. I don't see that
Yeah. I mean, we've seen what uh, Jalen Ramsey can do
happening.
whenever he actually follows a guy around. Like, you look at his stats, and top receivers in the league, you're talking holding them under 30 yards
Oh yeah.
most of the like it's crazy. And but we got a guy in Fulton who might be, not saying he's there yet, but I like his
Where he's going.
progression this
I
year.
love his progression.
Exactly. And
I
now
do.
we'll get back to these top moments. Like I
Sorry,
said,
I could talk
uh,
about betting all day, so I apologize.
no, look, and that's exactly why. Because when I was asking you to come on and everything, I was like, I'm gonna leave this best bets segment just a secret right now, and let talk about it, because I wanted to put you on the spot, see what you had, because I knew you had probably been looking forward. I've been looking forward.
Mhm.
I've been holding off just to kind of see where lines
Lines
go
kind of go.
to.
I have to
And
bet. I have to get my bets in before Thursday, anyways, because
right,
California is a non-betting state, so I have to get my bets in
mm,
early,
yeah,
anyways.
so you do have to be looking ahead for sure.
Mhm.
So now let's get back your fifth top moment from this season.
Funny part is it segues right into number 5. It was the road win against the Rams.
Mm,
The first game without Henry, everybody said we were dead in the water. Obviously Stephen A. Smith has his opinions. Everybody had their opinions. They said we were dead. This wasn't happening. There was no way we would beat a vaunted Rams team. And then we just came in and shut them in the mouth. Like that was
mhm,
that was the on Monday night. To go from having a team where I really didn't want to see us play on many live, like Monday night. Thursday
mhm.
night was okay because we usually got the Jags, but
Yeah.
like prime time spots were not always our bright spots. So to kind of see them come in, you're going into SoFi. Beautiful stadium from what I've seen. So I'm excited to
Mhm,
kind of see it for myself when I get to go to the Super Bowl and to kind of come in and dominate the Rams, especially like you said, defensively.
mhm.
Their offensive line just could not protect Stafford to save his
No.
life. And then from him going to those plays, and then him, pulling a Carson Wentz and throwing the ball from the end zone. Fun fact: Danico Autry and company was right back there. That's who generated that pass rush in order to, you know, basically spin him around and make him throw that catch. Um,
Mhm.
and then the next time to go, and then Kevin Byard jumps the route. He wasn't even supposed to be in the spot he was
Yeah.
in. He snuck it out and he got there and he took it in for a touchdown. Like that game was so much fun to watch because it was on one is on national TV. Two, it was after everybody and their mama said that there was no way we could win.
Mhm,
There was no way we could do this without Henry. And granted, we did have some struggles on offense, but it was literally the first game without our star. Like you're having to ask
mhm.
the offense to rework and and redo things that they're not doing. Also, it was fun to see Adrian Peterson. Like
Yeah.
we signed AP, even if it was for a little bit. Like we had another Hall of Fame running back on our field. It was crazy to see him in two-tone blue for that time
Yeah.
period. So definitely that road win against the Rams.
Yeah, I mean that was because like you said, that game obviously as Titans fans, we know how things usually go when the cards are stacked against us. Like at that point, that's when you really better not bet against us
Hmm.
because we'll make you pay. But at the same time, I think all Titans fans going into that game were like, okay, this is our first game without Henry. And it was more nerves of how is this team going to look
Hmm.
as far as and the defense went in and was like, don't worry, we
We got
got
you.
y'all.
We got you.
We're going to take care of business, do what we have to do. And just like you said, that was kind of watching our defense that game versus that Rams offense. It was like, okay, we've seen them be dominant a couple times this year, but they are on a completely different level.
Yes. And it was just like you look back in that game and you're like, you still question like how did Jeffrey Simmons become a Pro Bowl alternate over Chris
Uh,
Jones? Like this man didn't generate one sack this year. Like what do you mean?
I,
Like why? I get it because of his name and the team he's on and
mhm,
this and that. But like to see Jeffrey have three interceptions or not three, sorry, three sacks in one
mhm.
game, like and he was just counting one, two, three.
Yeah.
Like the way he took that offensive lineman and drove him all the way back just to get his arm around Stafford, I'm like, that man has a family, and you
Yeah.
just you just disrespected this man in front of this man's whole family out
Yeah.
there.
And like it really makes you think about we talked about the front four earlier. If they're able to keep Harold Landry, I mean, the season he had, you have Danico Autry, who was a spark. You have Jeffrey Simmons, Bud Dupree. You talked about Bud Dupree, the impact that doesn't show up in the stat sheet
Mhm.
of getting double teamed, helping others maybe causing the pressure and someone else getting the sack. Jeffrey Simmons was showing people like, you have to double team me too. Like if you
Mhm.
put one guy on me, I'm gonna own him all game long. Like there's no way around it.
Yeah.
Like one guy cannot handle me.
And the funny part is, I don't know if you're ready to talk about number 4, because this actually leads in. I like how this is working out. How again, this is perfection. Like it leads into my number 4, which is the defense having a 9-sack game. Versus, granted, we'll just put this out here. Personally, I am okay. I believe, I hope we'll get to that point where everybody else is okay and we move on. We
Mhm.
learn from this. I take the positives from the game, and the positives is that I personally feel we have a championship ready defense. Like this defense, it's different. Like you said, it's definitely not the defense of 2020.
Mhm.
That defense has been erased and gone, and I feel like that game just showed the world that we have a caliber defense. I feel like we have a championship caliber defense because Joey was on the ground half of the game. Like
Yep.
to have and I believe that ties like the high of a postseason sack
Mhm.
record, and to coming from a team who maybe had like 10 all year last year. I
Yeah.
think it's like 13 maybe,
Yeah.
or 19. I think it was right
Yeah. I
around
think it was 19.
19. To go from that to almost tripling, or to having 9 in one game, like are you kidding me? Like this defense was just playing nasty. And when you talk about like what type of person I am, like fan wise, I'm an
Mhm.
in the trenches. I don't care if the score is 2-3 or
Right.
2-7, because it means the defenses were beating up on one another or
Mhm.
on each side's offense. And so like to kind of watch that game, and you were sad about how the offense was doing, but I could not say that the defense played that game with the utmost perfection.
Mhm.
You couldn't ask them to perform better. There's no way. I don't think they could have performed any better unless they could all learn how to throw a ball on offense. Jeffrey Simmons, maybe, because he's been
Yeah.
practicing with the offense. So we'll see what that happens next year. But granted that touchdown got called back against the Texans because he didn't report as eligible, but well, that's neither here nor there.
Right.
But kind of like for them to step up and just show how far they've come in a year's time from our last playoff game. The defense stepped up for last year's playoff game too,
Mhm.
but the defense as a whole this year, it was just gritty. You could tell they were playing with a chip on their shoulder. Ever since that Pro Bowl snub, Jeffrey has been playing out of his mind, and I appreciate the NFL for not, and whoever voted that snubbed him, because this man is playing like a deranged lunatic, and I absolutely love it. Like I
Yes.
haven't seen this since Albert. I'll go back to Albert Hainsworth. Like this is the grittiness of that old 2000, early 2000s defense that we haven't seen in a long time. And I'm just hoping we do what, like you said, we do what it takes to keep this group together, because
Mhm.
I just believe with a year under their belt, it's just going to get better from here. Like I feel like you're going to have to be scared of this defense when you play because of what they can do.
Oh, for sure. And like you said, looking at that game, I've I've gotten to the point now where I'm better
Mhm.
with it. And like you said, you have to look at the positives. And man, the defense was such a positive in that game because going into halftime, I believe they had 5 sacks at halftime. And
Mhm.
I'm looking at the guy next to me. I'm looking at Kerry, and I'm like, we have 5 sacks at halftime.
Halftime.
Like, I was like, most of the time in an NFL game, if you get 5 sacks in a game, like your defense had a really good game.
Oh yeah.
But we had 5 at half. I was like, we may crack double digits, and I think should have cracked double digits because
Oh, for
again,
sure.
I didn't hear a whistle on the 2 times that they blew it. I think the Bengals got bailed out a couple of times there.
Mhm.
But I mean, just watching them fly around, and like you said with Simmons, whoever in the NFL voted and decided to leave him as an alternate because even though he's there now,
Mm-hmm.
in his mind, he's still thinking, I shouldn't have been an alternate. I should have been here from the start.
From the jump.
And he's going to use that for next year. And again, I feel sorry for any offensive lineman that has to try and block him next year.
I mean, it's just crazy to see how his progression too. I mean, at the beginning, just like 2 years ago, it seemed like people were kind of like, why are we getting a defensive lineman who, you know, just coming off of, I believe an ACL,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't know what he was going to do. And I knew he was special because of that Chargers game where
Mm-hmm.
he got a sack on Rivers, no less.
Yeah.
Back then, and it was just like I knew from that moment, like he came in as that rookie and made an impact. He just needed the pieces around him, and now that we have the pieces around him, I'm like, I give credit equally to Jim Schwartz and to Shane Bowen. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
to give that man his flowers. Like,
Yep.
People are like, obviously you give credit to Jim Schwartz because he's the overseer, he
Mm-hmm.
like you said, two had better than one. But I have to give credit to both. Like Shane Bowen has really turned it around from last year. And that, like you said, part of it is because Jim Schwartz I feel like that's why I was kind of going back to Kevin Byard's first year, because that's where Jim Schwartz was when, he helped develop Kevin
Right.
when he was first here. So it's just kind of like give credit to both of those men because they've absolutely turned this defense from a bottom of the barrel where Matt Stafford didn't care to play with broken ribs and wearing like this chest plate because he knew he wasn't going to be touched.
Right.
Like, so for them to go from this to this, it just incredible. Just incredible.
Yeah, exactly. Which also hitting on Stafford, I don't, even if the Titans defense was like this last year, the dude is so freaking tough. He may have played with that anyway, just because
He would have done it. Matt Stafford, I feel like, would play with like 3 broken fingers, a pinky toe, a cracked head. He put him in bubble wrap and he's good to go. He doesn't.
You would have to have him in a full body cast
for
for
sure.
him not to be able to get out there and play. I mean, it's crazy, and
he's so tough. And I'm so happy that he gets opportunity to get a Super Bowl because
I hope he gets it.
This man has been through so much in his, I think, 12 years that he's been in the league. He's been in the league for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And to kind of see him now with a team that has a supporting cast that he needed, that he didn't get in Detroit, to now get the opportunity to play for a Super Bowl ring is absolutely incredible. And I 100% hope he gets that.
Yep.
People are asking me all, who you're going for. I'm like, obviously I'm kind of neutral, but if anything, because of how long I've been a football fan and how long we've seen Matt Stafford go through those ebbs and flows of being in Detroit, to kind of see him at this point now, I can't help but to root for Matt Stafford. Like I want him to get that ring. I feel like it will help him immensely.
As soon as the Titans got put out, I was like, it's the Rams. I want to see Stafford get that ring. Out of everyone that was left in it, I was like, this dude deserves it more than anyone that's still out there. I want to get to a couple of comments right quick because we've had them flooding in here. Damon Beverly says, tighten up, fam. Tighten up to you.
Tighten up.
Mark Jones, what's up, guys? Tighten up. Clowney Super Bowl asked, who should we cut to save some cap space? And I'm still thinking on that one. I haven't really decided where I think the team will go. Mark Jones, with Derrick Henry just coming back that final game, he is motivated to get back on the field and go for the record next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then says if he can stay healthy, he will have a historical season. He's going to be beast mode after all these workouts and training.
That's actually part of the offseason I look forward to is those workout clips that they send out every year, because it was hilarious that last year that Ryan Tannehill kind of mimicked one of his training videos where his wife put the purse over his neck.
Yes. Yeah, it's great. And, I think that's one thing that Titans fans were waiting on after Henry got injured. like we knew to the point where he would be able to get back to working out. And like that's what we were all wanting to see. We're like,
Mm-hmm.
Henry, give us something. Just let us see you back in the lab, because we know he was working like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 615 podcast, the 2021-2022 Falcons are the 2020-2021 Titans in the sack department. Falcons had 18 all year. I
We
mean,
felt the pain. We felt the
yep.
pain. No pass rush. It was
Nope.
horrible.
My wife, she agreed with you on one of them. I don't know exactly when that comment come in. So, but one of your moments or something you were talking about, she really agreed with.
Love you, Gary.
Um, 615 podcast, losing when we did in the playoffs means we get ahead on the off season. Titans Rossi says, "What's up,
Hey,
Steph?
Giants
Hope all is well."
Hey.
I know he's at work right now, so have fun with that, buddy. We definitely got to get you on the show again and get your top moments from this season. And now we'll get back. I think we're up to number 3,
Number
correct?
3, yes, and this is not necessarily a play, but Jarrell Casey returning to retire. Jarrell Casey is. I'll go back to. I love the Titans for Albert Haynesworth, but Jarrell Casey, I followed him once he got drafted to the Titans, and I followed him through his entire career here. He was the first jersey I ever bought. I met him a couple of seasons ago at the Tighten Up kickoff party they had, where it was still Marcus and company, and they had
Right.
like scrimmage between the teams, and I got a chance to meet him, and he was very kind, very nice guy. Just like his game and the person he is on and off the field is what made me fall in love with him as a player. And so when he left, quick story time. I think it was during the Colts game when they announced that he was getting he was getting traded to the Broncos. And I don't cry much over football, but I did shed a few tears when I found out Jarrell got traded, because it was such a blindside. I
Right.
didn't expect it. I don't think anybody expected it. And so the day that he said that he was coming back to retire, hold on, and the day he came back to retire, like he had that press conference, and just to kind of see that he was able, that connection with him and J Rob wasn't tarnished, because he's like, he understood at the end of the day that it's business,
Right.
and he understands that decisions had to be made. But watching him on the field, they showed him, and it got to me when they showed him and walking into the locker room for the last time, and they showed his locker. And they had all of his, like, he had 98. They had his locker just set up for him. And it was just a beautiful moment that I was thankful we all got to share in. And that part where he got to retire officially as a Titan was a amazing moment for me.
Yes. I mean, that really, I think, like you said, the trade was a blindside. But knowing the fact of he got to come back and retire as a Titan, like that was big. Like that was major. So, I was happy to see that he got to come back and do that. And now we'll slide on into number 2.
Number 2, Tannehill's Houdini act against the Texans in the fourth quarter, where we thought he was going to get tackled for a huge loss.
Yes.
And then he ends up spinning out, leaning into Taylor Wan, running around and throwing a dart to Nick Westbrook-Akina.
Yep.
Credit to Nick Westbrook-Akina for stepping up in his role this season. Awesome a job for his development. Obviously, like, things happen, but very happy to see him develop into the wide receiver that he is hopefully going to be going forward. But yes, that Houdini act was absolutely crazy. Watching it on TV, I'm like, okay, he's down, but no, he ends up spinning out and getting out, and then throwing that dart of a pass. And I'm like, who is this guy? Like, who is this guy?
The funniest part to me about that is, you have Lawan, who he's like everyone else. He thinks that Tannehill's going down, and then all of a sudden he turns and looks, and Tannehill's using him for support, and Lawan's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I can still block right now," and I'm
I
like,
do
just
not remember
that whole play, because I'm like, I see him get wrapped up. I'm like, man, like
this is
no, and then he gets out of it and like just throws that dart down. I'm like, you're kidding me. Like,
that
how did
whole
he do that?
game. That whole game, I feel like had to be mentally. You had to come, and that's something that as a professional, I don't think a lot of people, see sometimes. They're real humans. I know
Mhm.
after that Texans game, Tannehill took a beating. Like, he was getting sacked multiple times. He threw four interceptions. It was a bad game. It was a horrible game. But for him to turn it around and have that 4 touchdown game in that against the same team who pretty much took us
Right.
over the first game. It was so great to see. He wasn't going to give up. He wasn't going to go down without a fight, and that's kind of who Tannehill is as a person. Like, he just doesn't. He's not going to give up. He's not going to you know call it in or throw in the towel or
Right.
anything like that. So it was great to see that entire performance. But yeah, that definitely that Houdini act was insane. That was a crazy moment. That was a crazy
it,
moment.
it really was. It was like, okay, I'm tired of getting hit. I'm fixing to make a play down the field here. Um, and now, the moment we've been waiting for, your number one moment from this past season.
It was actually like a culmination of one thing, but it was just the Titans when they celebrated women in football during the Chiefs game.
Hmm.
Um, that whole game was kind of crazy because prior to that there was a tailgate where Miss Amy showed up. We got to meet Miss Amy. She's such a sweetheart, and that was also where they announced me as fan of the year because I had to keep it quiet for like 2 weeks. Like, I knew in October, like
Oh wow.
last week of October, and I had to hold it in for like 2 almost 3 weeks before this game came out, where they would tell everybody. I'm like, look, I need to tell people this is, because you're in group chats, you're on social media, you have your friends and everybody, and you're just
Hmm.
like, you have to hide this huge secret. And so the tailgate was amazing. They hosted that tailgate, and everybody's just like, this is you did this, you helped bring this to life, because the celebrating women in football was actually an idea that came from the group in the off season prior to the
Hmm.
start of the season, regular season. So we had meetings with Titans executives. Shout out to Gil and company, Gil Beverly, great human being all around. And they were talking about what they wanted to see from the Titans, like organization as a whole. And we brought up the idea of celebrating, women, or having
Hmm.
a ladies' game or ladies' night game, or something like that. So they ended up turning it into celebrating women in football. And what better way to kick off that game, with Amy opening up with a message. And then
Hmm.
we actually, there was a event that they hosted for us, where it was a Ladies of Titans football event that they hosted, and they got us doing like cheers and yells and the
Hmm.
chant, and it all got to be played during the game. So to kind of see them incorporate that was just, it was absolutely awesome. And then when they announced me as fan of the year, see, I was just kind of like, I was content with, being kind of it at that moment, being kind of quiet, because it was just kind of like
Hmm.
everybody was around me. And then me and Nate were eating, at halftime with like a group of like 6 people that we didn't know, but everybody's fans, so they know each other. And they announced it, and then everybody just turns around and just looks at me, and they're like, "Is that you?" And I'm like, I have blue hair. Like, you
Right.
can't miss me. There's no way I can hide. And so they're like, "Oh my gosh, you weren't gonna tell anybody." I said, "Not really." Like, I wasn't gonna tell a ton of people, but I wanted to tell some, a handful. But
Right.
they were like, "Oh my gosh, that was you." And I'm like, "Yes, that was me." And then, everybody's like, "Congratulations," throughout the game. You know, the anonymity kind of went away after
Hmm.
that game, because it was just like, it was there front and center. And then, they're like, "I saw it on the jumbotron. I saw you on the jumbotron." I was just like, "Yeah, that was definitely me." It
Right.
definitely a crazy thing happening, but it was definitely that game. It was so fun to see the Titans embracing our group, embracing what we're about, because it just, women don't sometimes, like, the ladies that are in the, not only the group chat but a part of the Twitter page,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you don't really have a place to go sometimes to talk about your fandom without you being thrown a million questions.
Right.
And it's very difficult, especially with the social media platform that we have today, where people can just say anything, especially when you're a female. Like, you're automatically grilled. um, I'm not going to say it's within the fan base, because
Right.
you have your bad seeds, but just in general around the league, like, you're constantly questioned about your knowledge. You're if somebody doesn't like your opinion, your appearance is thrown at you at the jump. And so when I created the lot space, it was really during the height of the pandemic in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a place for Titans female fans to go to speak to other women, about their love of the team, things that are
Right.
going on, and even in your personal life. Like, everybody has a life outside of sports, and so to be able to come into a place where you can speak freely to other women and just kind of uplift and hold one another, like during the hard times, the bad games, the good games. um it's something that I didn't think that would turn into this
Nope.
big of a concept. um and then, like, when individuals like yourself, and other wonderful parents of newborns are just like, I can't wait for her to be a future lot, or things like that. Like, you guys don't have any idea how much that warms my heart, because I did not think that this would be something that would be generational or long lasting, or past the the last season or the season after. But just kind of seeing people are like, you know thank you for creating a space that maybe one day my daughter can be a part of, because it's it's so humbling, because I didn't have that place when I was like 13. I wouldn't, or 11. I started watching football 11, 12, 13, and 13 is like around that age where you get social media. And I wish that I had a place to go, to speak to other women about the sport and not feel like I was being bombarded with thousands of questions and things like that um, about something that I thought I knew. So it's so incredible to see when I see precious little girls or newborn babies, and they're just like, I can't wait for her to be a part of the lot group, because you think that highly of the group and the space that we've created, that you would want your own children to be a part of it. And so definitely, I think I thank everybody who's a part of it. So that's definitely why that's my number
Uh,
one moment.
And I think that is a great number one moment. And I want to say, because obviously I do have a little girl, like, yeah, thank you so much for creating that space. And even like I told you when we were messaging earlier, whenever you let my wife into that group and everything, like, she was so excited about that, getting to talk to other women about football. Because like you said, I see it on Twitter when I get on there. You have um a lot of you have some of these guys that either when you start throwing out facts to them, this and that, they're either hitting you with all these questions, or like you said, they'll attack appearance. And I'm like, dude, like this, like, we are so far beyond
Hmm.
that point, or should be. Like, women know football. There's a lot of women out there who study the game, and I'm going to say there's probably women out there that know the game even better. I'll say it, they probably know it better than I do. And especially breaking it down, like, in the trenches. Because you know growing up, I'd be a guy who I would look at the stats more, but then as I got older, learning, hey, there's other stuff where someone may not show up in the stat. And there's a lot of women out there who, I know, I I believe it's Anna. She's a big Jeffrey Simmons
Yeah, Anna Lewis.
fan, and,
She's wonderful.
and she has been raving on him for forever and telling people, y'all need to be watching him. And then all of a sudden, he really blows up this year. And she has that right. She's like, look, I told y'all about him. Like, I've been telling y'all about him.
100%.
So,
100%.
like, like I just everything you have done for not just the Titans women in football, but I know other women from other fan bases see it. Just thank you so much for that. And, I am looking forward to when little Charlotte gets older, she can have that space as well and be able to come talk about football with other women because, like you said, y'all have that group where y'all can all come together and talk about it and no one's going to be hitting you with all these questions to see if you really know the game and all that. So, yes, thank you. And, just I think that's a great way to, or a great moment to have as your top moment for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. And I do. It's definitely, like I said, it's humbling. It just makes me want to work harder to see where this group goes. Like we started out with 20 members and now,
Mm-hmm.
you obviously there's a limit in the group chat. I didn't know that group chats only go to 75 people. Did not know that until recently. You can
Hmm.
only add 75 people per group chat on Twitter. Lesson learned, but
Right.
then to see the Twitter page take off and then like when you have like when they brought up my story on Good Morning Football to have
Mm-hmm.
both Peter Schrager and company that they both liked the page and I couldn't believe it. Like it was just like, you know, when Kay liked the page, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to blank on her name there for a second. I apologize. But after like a certain time period, mom brain sets in, it just shuts down for the day. So I apologize. But but when Kay liked it and she's like, that's a really cool format, really good platform to have. And then to kind of talk to some of the other fan of the years, because there's 17 women fan of the years this year. Like it's so cool to talk and all the fans of the years are great. It's really just nice to see the inclusion that the NFL has with recognizing both individuals as fans of the years and just to kind of hopefully to be able to sit and talk with them and if anybody's got questions or anything like that. Like I see like Green Bay has a leading presence with women who love to talk about the Green Bay Packers. Found out days ago that there's a ladies of the Predators on Facebook, and that was a group created 5 months ago for female fans of the Nashville Predators. So that is
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook, and so to just kind of see it balloon into other fields and other teams and things like that. That's really all I wanted. I just wanted women to feel like they have a safe space to go to talk about their fandom.
And I think that's great. And Stephanie, I really thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you.
and giving us your top 10 moments from this past season. I'm gonna want to get you on again, especially after you go get that Super Bowl experience.
Of
Like
course, of course.
after you go experience off all that, and I know you're going to be riding high for several days even after that. So I want to give you time to really take it all in and be able to think about everything that you saw, but definitely want to get you on the show again this off season. And like I said, just thank you so much for coming on. Anyone who is in the chat, if you don't already follow Stephanie, go follow her on Twitter at StephanieP96.
Mhm.
Uh, Always, whether it's talking about betting, Titans football, just all kinds of different things. She's a great follow on there.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to come back and talk about the Super Bowl. I won't be able to shut up about it.
And hey, that's okay. So everyone, appreciate y'all coming out, commenting like crazy. Make sure if you hadn't already, go hit that like button. And as always, tighten up.
Tighten